uh, as you know, like, Muslims around the world actually, I gonna take only a few minutes to talk about one special thing. What's going on is the Ramadan, and happy Ramadan to all, the viewers and the listeners, no matter who you are, where you're from. May the blessing be upon you. So don't worry, I'm not gonna give the Ramadan sermon to you. All right, I will share with you three insights that I was sharing with my kiddos actually. So first is what we learn in the Ramadan is, power of quitting, right? And second is power of saying no, and power of retaining and maintaining focus. So these are the three important power, right? And how do we learn? By actually, quitting from eating food from certain amount of, time, like, from a start and ends, like dawn and sunset. That's the things. And also, I learned there's a difference between dawn and the sunrise. So I'm saying dawn and the sunset. So that's the real. Actually, just want to clarify. Normally, journalists usually write like dawn, sunrise to sunset, something like that. So, anyways, so we avoid eating food, and also, like, try to stay more humane, create more ethical boundaries around us. But what I learned from it is actually when you start doing a startup, right? So you have to shut yourself off from all other things which can deviate you from your main target, right? So that's a very important thing. You have to learn how to say no as well as a leader, because you cannot add all the features. Like, let's bring it into our product design as well, right? You can feel like, oh, this is going to be very helpful, this is going to be super awesome. And we learn in our previous episodes that how we can shave off all those kind of things and temptation. So that's what I believe, that you can gain these kind of insights from Ramadan. And that's what I was thinking, should I write some Medium post or what have you. But these are my just rant about Ramadan and my learning, that power of quitting, uh, power of saying no, and power of retaining and maintaining focus. This is what usually I personally think that as a startup, as an entrepreneur, as a designer, we can gain out of it, right? So let's recap from our last episode. So before we start working on our product and counting our ROIs, we have to make sure we exhaust ourselves and the stakeholders with as many whys as we can. you know uh, we also need to learn about their where, means location, the context, right? And then we talk about the idea that we cannot build the product for everyone. We have to solidify, right, uh, our understanding regarding the target audience. And also we have to learn that what we have to build, how they how we're going to serve them. So today we're gonna learn the last step of our ROI framework. That's what I'm calling it. Some people call it a product design, but I'm calling it ROI framework, because at the end of the day, when you build the product, you want to see the result, right? And in our next two series, next two episodes, what I'm gonna do, I will lay out key metrics concept that you have to measure, which will tell you exactly that what's the ROI of your UX. So you have to, like, it's everything going to tie together at the end very nicely. Yep. Then we will conclude it, and we will see how it goes in our last series. So let's begin with the prioritization, right? So once we have explored what we have to build and for whom, in our step earlier, right, we talked about listing the idea. So and visualizing what the journey map's going to be. Now is the time to prioritize the one which we believe based on data and user research we did earlier. So now what we're going to do, we have a list of ideas, we have list of, remember the sky is green scenario, we have it on board, we know what we have to do, right? Power of saying no. So we cannot build everything, right? So we have to bring our focus and alignment and see what we can build now. To which screen you guys are seeing? sorry, hold on a second. Arzish, can you tell me which screen you are seeing?
And now I'm seeing prioritization.
Just prioritization, right?
Just prioritization. Just prioritization.
Yeah, I got a little bit like there's a jumpiness happening on my end. So, anyways, so uh, what we have to do, we should be thinking from customer perspective, right, and how it can help us and gain a good chunk of revenue. But when this is what the prioritization core is, because if you start building everything and nothing is tied up, nothing is ready to your customer pain point, the primary pain point, if you launch your product, you're not going to gain anything. And at the end of the day, you want to gain their trust and their money, obviously, right? So that's why we are building a startup. So focusing on the right idea. So there are different ways actually to prioritize, and I will give you few of the way. I will show you three of my favorite types of prioritization. So there are many popular ways, as I was saying, and here I will give you a brief presentation of two or three of my favorite ones. And there's it's good for those who are like in rush. The last one actually very important one, and like, or you have a very tiny team, right, like 2 or 3 people, or maybe like up to 5, I would say that's when you're gonna like this third prioritization process. So it's up to you to pick one, and what type of it's depend what type of corporation or setup of startup you have, who is more involved. Designers are more part of the team, or like if you have 2 or 3 co-founders, then maybe one is the only developer, two of them like don't know a clue about developing or any kind of methodology. So you have to pick and choose, right? And as I always say, learn how to cook, and pick the best thing from everything and make your own recipe. So let's begin. All right. So first one, this is very interesting. It's very simple. It's a buy a feature. So it's a cost-based feature prioritization. So let me explain it to you. So what you have to do is list all your features and assign them cost to each of them. All right. Make sure cost matches the complexity of delivery. More complex task means it will cost more, relatively speaking, right? It's very simple. So for example, $100 for one feature, feature number A, 75 for feature number 2, and like 50 for feature number 3, so on and so forth, right? So features should be costed relative to one another. So a feature that costs twice as much is twice as hard to deliver. So it's everything gonna be relative. So expensive feature means it's gonna take 3 weeks, or a less expensive feature it's gonna take 2 weeks, something like that. So if you are working with the user stories and story points, then you can simply use story points as your cost. That's another way to do it. So once you define the cost for each feature, now give your product owner, business stakeholders, in short, stakeholders, a set of budget, and then let them do the feature shopping. So say, hey, you know what, do the feature shopping and make sure you listen to the feature according, so like for product 1, version 1, don't just throw every feature on the board. Make sure which version of you are thinking, version 1, and these are the features that should be part of the version 1, and also keep other features aside, and make sure that they are also cost. So it's kind of like a shopping environment. So now once you noted down the feature shopping, ask them all important question. Very important. Again, we have to go back the main important question that we discussed in the second episode. Why? So you understand everyone's reasoning, rationale, right? Because when you start asking why somebody picked this feature instead of that feature, sometimes two of the features are related, right? So you have to say, look, if we have to build this, we need to build this feature as well, right? For example, a comment section in our blog post, right? So I do need to build the like feature as well, something like. So you have to make sure things are related to each other, and this is how you can, do the by a feature prioritization. This is amazing technique, right? It's gonna be, it's fun actually. So second thing, which I am more interested as well at Wells Fargo, so this is what we do, but not exactly, not 100%. It's kind of like, I said, we build our kind of like, mix and match kind of thing, but we call it priority poker as well. So it's a priority poker, very simple. We play like, just like a poker. It's not a cost-based feature, it's a card-based feature. So I have to update my okay, the subtitle of this task. Okay, so you have to work a bit and create a priority card, and which then can be given to all the players, stakeholders in this case again, a set of priority cards which they can use against a feature. So put the feature list on the whiteboard, or in today's scenario, you use a tool like mural.com or something similar, right? Or just, write down your feature list on the Google Sheet, and then let everybody see. And then cards, really 1 to 5 with like, I don't know, there's a special card, I don't know, Joker card, right? Purpose of this card is when player cannot make up their mind, or they don't know, or they don't know more information about this feature, or they are uncertain about that feature. Let's put it that way. So as a dealer, you can then start pick a feature, describe it, setting the stage for prioritization. Now, once you describe this is the feature going to be, so what you do is time to play. So each player then choose a priority card for that feature and place it face down on the table, right? So once all stakeholders have placed their card upside down, then everyone reveals their card at the same time and discusses and agree on a priority, just like, your team can do. So the real power of this is a very important thing, all right? So the real power of this technique is not only the agreed priority, but more importantly, a discussion surrounding that, agreement. Or, if you are not agree, so why you not agree, right? So, but I think this part can be part of the, the buyer feature prioritization as well. One important thing, the word hippo. So when you place down your, card, not facing up, the priority number 1. So when you face down, you avoid the hippo effect, HIPPO. So I as a small, O as a small, right? So it means highest paid person's opinion, your boss opinion, in short, right? So nobody knows. You are the only one who is actually a deciding person. Who, for example, if you involve developer, right? So developer, if I have a boss sitting with me, right? A senior, I would say a director or VP or CEO in front of me, and a developer with me. And developer is telling me that it's gonna take 4 weeks to get it done. I'm gonna believe the developer. Why? These two people, they are not aware. They are technically maybe sound or whatever, but right now this guy is on the ground. He knew exactly how to build, but obviously he need to provide the details and everyone. But you got the idea, right? So this is amazing tool to avoid that kind of effect, which we call it hippo effect, highest paid person's opinion, right? That's interesting one. So this was a second prioritization, technique. Let's go to the third one. So this is a very easy one, as I said earlier, right? So when you have a tiny team, this is the best approach I would suggest. So where you need to put your ideas into a sticky note. Let's put your feature list on a sticky note, right? And then start placing them in one of those quadrants. So for example, should we build the iPhone app specifically, or we should go with the responsive web app? So the effort of building iPhone app, relatively speaking, is low, right? One platform, just one SDK, and get the stuff done, low effort. Or and however, the reachability is going to be low, only specific to iPhone user, which means impact level is low, right? So and this in turn, what does that mean? Low revenue. So that's how you have to actually put together which, what you have to build, either responsive web, things like this. So that's how you're going to prioritize. So low impact, and effort is okay. I'm not going to build this thing, so I need a great impact, right? And then effort is okay, or maybe kind of like bad. So depend how you want to word those things. And you can add more quadrant. Again, you are free to modify those techniques according to your environment. These are just the guidelines, right? You are welcome to modify it, change it, just like Lego, to meet your need and make sure your customers and your stakeholders need, right? Now's the time to build it, right? So now I finalized everything. We did the why, who, when, where, what, prioritization, everything, right? We are now 100% ready to build our application or services or whatever we were thinking. So there are many tools to start with. There are many wireframing, sketching, user journey, storyboarding. I'm not going to go in detail, right? Because we are not talking about the UX over here. We are not unpacking the UX here, but these are the tools now that you were envisioning earlier, as I was keep repeating and telling you. When somebody comes up with the idea, please do not pick your pencil or any sketching tool or coding tool. Flesh out your why, who, where, when, and and make sure prioritization. Sounds like too too much, but that's not true. You can get it done within 2 days, these kind of things, or 3 days, if you are like very much into a lean mode. So wireframing, as I said, very interesting tool. User journey storyboarding, so you can actually do the storyboarding kind of like a comic thing, draw like what's going to happen uh, with the user, how they're going to use it, and what have you. And there's one more tool, one more technique, one very important technique, and I have a very awesome story to share with you, which I call it the prototyping, right? So before writing a single line of code, once you've done your, let's say, uh, wireframing, right? And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to put this, even before I say, even before doing extreme amount of wireframing of your flow, or I would say if you are a little bit used that, should I build this feature? I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, or maybe I can do, maybe why don't I do a quick prototyping, right? So you can use a paper and pencil, quickly draw something, run with your, target audience, right? And if you're not comfortable, your lines are not straight. My lines are still not straight, right? I'm a UX designer. Uh, then what you can do, there are so many tools out there. Figma, quite popular these days. Protopie, Envision, right? uh, it's easy to talk about ideas, right? You can spend endless hours on discussing about it on Reddit or on any other forum, that how cool it can be, how users are going to use it, etc., etc. But and how rich you're gonna be? You can be like, there's a Pakistani folk character, Sheikh Chilli, right? So this guy, I don't know what's the equivalent in English literature, but this guy was always dreaming of starting his own business. So he got two eggs. His mom sent him to get the two eggs from the store, and he was envisioning in his mind that he gonna make get there will be chicken out of it, and then he gonna have a big farm, and then he gonna have a big a livestock, cattle and what have you, and things like that. And guess what? He tripped, and two of his eggs are fall and they are broken. So there you go, it's done. So he was just thinking, right? Talk is easy, thinking easy, but making them happen is the most difficult task. It's not easy. It's not it's you need to spend some time. So that's why I think prototyping can help you a lot in this case, and it will save you tons of money that you obviously we don't need to spend $50,000, right? We need to spend like maybe $100 $200 to validate our idea. And I have a story. So it's a tiny story. It's about the app. I was thinking because my godfather's son, he was into the car management, car dealership, business. He was in the car dealership business. Very interesting, but in the wholesale car dealership business. So the best part was, so they buy in bulk, like 25, 30 cars. They were tiny dealers. So I start calling them micro dealer. So who are dealing in 30 to like 35 cars per month. Interesting. So he one day complained it to me. He called me and he was like, I start listening to his rant that it's so difficult to manage the car. I say, well, what kind of difficulty you have? He says, oh, we have the dealer's jacket that we need to carry around. So when we buy the car from auction, so we need to make sure, start writing down all the notes that how much it took us for how much it cost us for towing, toll, and how much money we spend on this, the repair and what have you. And we start putting everything in the dealer's jacket. And then at the end of the week, I need to put all the data into the Excel sheet. And he said the problem is there are softwares available out there, and the minimum cost is $50 per month to buy those software to manage your inventory. And they go all the way to $1,000 a month, which is very interesting. And he said, I don't want to spend $50 a month, especially those micro dealers who just deal in like 30 to 35 cars. They just do their stuff, on Excel. They're okay with that, but there's no mobile app equivalent. There's no app available right now which can help me out. So I had doubt. I was excited, I spent like, it was super awesome. Like, oh my God, new amazing idea. Just like that, we just like, we all get excited. Oh, and start, as I said, Mr. Sheikh Chilli. So you start building that, kind of dream world. What's going to happen with you when you're going to launch this app? People are going to love it. People are going to flow to it. And, they're going to buy in bulk. And, oh my God, I'll be rich and a millionaire in the valley. Guess what? I control this urge. I say, hey, Mudassir, you don't need to spend another $50,000 if you like, I don't have it now. But like, I remember my past lesson. My wife was not happy when I burned those $50,000 without, putting a good focus on business model, right? So what I did, I used a tool, Prioritization, and actually I built an app. So some major theme around it, major feature that this is how, so doing lots of, interviews with my godfather son and all his friends, getting more insight that what's the main thing they are looking for. I designed the prototype in the in the Prioritization tool. And I launched the website. It's still there, carventry.us. I was lucky enough to find the Twitter and everything. I'm keeping it, right? So just for fun, it's a reminder to me. So it cost me like what, $30 plus I think $75 or $80 of Figma. So that's all. And I designed the app. It's working, just a prototype, right? Working prototype. There's a town here from 3 hours drive, Bakersfield. I drove there, and there are lots of car dealer out there who are dealing in the in that kind of wholesale car inventory stuff. And also I shared this with my godfather son. His name is Hamad, actually, to New York. So I say, hey, you test from your end, I'm gonna test from my end. So on the weekend I drove all the way down there, spent like almost 6-7 hours, came back home around 10-11. And what did I learn? That this idea not gonna fly, because they already have a tool, and that was not their problem. They are fine with managing their, like, bringing the car from auction, entering the data, because there's somebody, they have some office assistant who is actually taking care of it. However, they were struggling with few things, and not all of them, only few users that I learned. and they don't know about that feature actually, which was already in their software. That when I did the analysis, the struggle was, if they have 70 cars on their lot, so they actually sending 70 files, physical files, to their two of the user told me that two so 70 files they have to send it to their accountant. Imagine 70 files, the pile of 70 files. When I was like with them, I explored that software. I say, you know what software your accountant is using? Oh, I said, can you show me the, if you don't mind, I want to see how you get all the details from the accountant. So I realized their accountant was using Quicken, I guess, for bookkeeping and all the details. And then to those two users, I said, can I see your software? I want to see how do you manage it? How do you, get the report and what have you? So what happened? I saw one option, and I realized they don't know, so they can export this data into a Quicken file format, right? And they can just email this to their accountant, right? I said, dude, it means they are unaware about this software. So I can pivot myself, right? If I wished for at that time to be, to teach those, dealers about the Quicken, how to integrate the Quicken in their software, or how they can actually use these kind of things, their tools, and export this and that, what have you. I saved myself thousands of dollars, because of this spending that amount of hours. I would say, like, 100 some dollar. And if you count my prototyping, everything, designing on all those things, it didn't took me more than, like, 3 hours to design, or 4 hours to design this prototype, and just spending some time with the a target audience. So that's why this technique is very important at the end of the day, when you does your prioritization and everything you've done, but still you think that, I need to go and see if this thing gonna fly. Always be in doubt about these things, remember, because sometime when you go ahead and try to find out that you have to build this thing, and this is what user pain point is, still, like, you don't know what's gonna happen. You really don't know until you launch, right? So prototyping can take you a little bit closer to reality, but not necessary. It will actually, give the whole insight. You don't know sometime, like, yes, you did your part of the job, everything is cool and dandy. Luck, that's also a factor, right? We cannot control the luck. We know the MySpace, right, and the Facebook, and there's one more Pakistani, entrepreneur started something similar around that time. Naseeb.com, right? Where are they? Luck favors some, what they say, luck favors bold, right? So that's it. So today we learned, right, about the prioritization and how to build the solution, right? And the most important aspect when we are building a build solution, I talk about prototyping. Very important factor in your, in your last step. Do make sure you learn tons of, technique about doing the prototyping. There are lots of people who are well versed in, drawing on the paper and, and show the screens. Just YouTube the paper prototyping, and you will be surprised that there's so many creative ways. But don't waste your time, right? Quick prototyping, get the insight, and get out and see if it's working or not. Questions? All right. So please keep sending questions in chat. Yeah, sure, guys. You can type your question. Now I'm gonna read from the chart window, and we'll go from there. It's quiet audience today. Or some of them are, going through the Ramadan. That's why all you guys are quiet.
Yeah, I think it might be Ramadan because like the third row. But
Yeah.
since we have some time and since you have taken out the time, we've started this series from this technical topic, and we've stayed on the very workshop format. And I'm sure a lot of people would love to know more about kind of your story and how you learned all these things. So maybe we can spend some time talking about that.
Say again, how did I start into the UX, or
Yeah, like how did you reach this point where you're this like global UX
Oh,
guru, but the
that,
journey behind this, right? Which is obviously I know the journey, but for the people who don't, I think it would be a good thing to kind of discuss it and share it.
oh,
Yeah, there is one question now.
so Scott, so for rapid prioritization, it sounds like you prefer yeah, that's my preferred. If you rapid, you don't have to worry about doing all the poker and cost based feature kind of thing. So okay, yeah, all right, coming back to ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let me from Pakistan. So I spent 20 when I my 20 celebrated my 24th birthday in Silicon Valley, right? San Jose, the capital city of Silicon Valley. So in 2002, I came to America, right? Before that, I was a coder, developer, ASP developer for almost 3-4 years over there, right? So I started my career in 1999
Wow.
till 2002. But before that, I came to know about computers in I think early 90s, late 80s, when my dad got me Commodore like computer MSX from Middle East. So he went for Umrah or Hajj, he got the stuff for me from there, and I learned GW Basic from that computer. So that was very interesting. So so now I will go back and forth because
Yeah.
so Adil asked for an amazing question. So best tools on top of your list. So prototype, and so again depend what kind of fidelity of prototyping you're looking for. If you are prototyping for micro transitions and micro motions and what have you, and micro interactions, like somebody do this, so there should be that kind of hover effect, or somebody do the select, then I need to do a little bit of subtle effect on my table row. So it depends, right, on the fidelity. So I would start from the high and I will go to the bottom, right? So the high fidelity tool, prototype, or there are so many principles for Mac and what have you. Second, and the level where you don't need to show too high fidelity, but somewhere medium. So I would say Envision, right? Envision is good tool. Click and point and click and get the work done, get your idea across the table, right? The lowest one, I say, hey, paper prototyping. That's the lowest one you can go. And in somewhere in between Envision and prototype, I would put Figma as well, the new trend right now among everyone. Adobe XD is a free one, free tool as well. Envision Studio also, good idea. Depend, and what kind of fidelity you want. Sure, Adil. So after spending time as a developer, I was inspired to be in America because of the movie. That movie is Pirate of Silicon Valley. It was very inspiring movie. One of my friend recommended me somewhere in 99, yeah, around that time, 98, 99. And I don't know about Silicon Valley that much. Then I read my first book about Microsoft. At that time, the Microsoft Way, very interesting book. This is where I learned that Intuit, even at that time, Microsoft was not able to kill the Intuit. Very fascinating,
Wow.
because they are who built the QuickBooks and TurboTax and all these software,
Yeah.
and their approach was very big at that time, because they were putting their software in the bank instead of the at the at that time Circuit City and what these kind of and Computer. I think that was also uh, a store I have seen when I came here in 2002 in Valley. So spending time as a developer in 2008, I got inspired by Deborah Adler. She actually is the one who appeared at Microsoft Mix conference, and she talked about UX. So I was a Silverlight developer as well, and the best part was we were building coolest tool and application for AMB Corporation, now Prologis. So as a nerd, yes, developers like Bill Buxton, actually he came on the stage during that mixed 2000 mix '09 or mix 2008 conference, and he introduced us with Deborah Adler. He said that, look, she is the one. For her, the word developing means like you are developing a photo. She don't know about development. She is like totally a UX person, right? And Bill Buxton says, just listen to her story. So inspiring. I would say Google up, and figure out. It's very interesting, person. She is very amazing. She inspired me to be in the UX, and that's where actually, all all hell, So I would say I gone crazy about UX because I'm an extrovert person. I talk a lot. If you put me in front of 10,000 people, I can speak, even without like getting myself prepared or what have you. So she inspired me, and then in 2008 we have our firstborn, my daughter. My godfather told me at that time that teach your kids their mother tongue, right? Even though Urdu is not my mother tongue, right? Even English is my fourth language. So, but we speak Urdu at our home. It's very typical, right? It's very typical among all the Pakistanis these days. Even you are from all the way to Kashmir to Karachi. Mostly 80%, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speak your native tongue with your elders, with your uncles and aunts and your mom and dad. But among siblings, is always uh, mostly Urdu. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I actually I thought like, how should I, like, my godfather told me, like, teach. I said, yeah, okay, I will teach Urdu, right? So we speak Urdu, but I know that once they're gonna step outside, it's English. I cannot control it. I start reading about Russians, Indians, Chinese, that how they are maintaining their culture. Italians, right? So
Yeah.
I realized they do speak a lot, China, their native language among their family events and what have you. But that was not that common here about in Pakistan, among Pakistan. So I'm gonna stop here. There's a question from Adil. If you
Uh,
have just found market fit, should you start focusing on improving your UI, or should you focus on? All right, Adil. UX is part of the UI. You cannot separate them. You cannot separate. So there's no separation. All right, and you cannot say UX or UI. That's also a wrong notion. UX is umbrella term. UI is part of it, right? Content strategist, product management, all those. There are so many components. So think of a UX as a big ginormous city, right? And everybody's working accordingly, right? Whatever their stuff is. So if you found the product market fit, then you have to build. Then your second question should be, what kind of experience I have to provide, and what kind of experience my competitors are providing. So you start contrasting, right? So this is what I'm going to say. Focus on the whole UX part. And when you say the whole UX part, you're going to bringing everything in between. Sometime I believe, and you could be, it's just my belief. I say that when you are focusing on UX, you are basically focusing on improving your business. Why? Because good experience means people not gonna go away from your product. That's my belief is because UX also bring more money. For example, there is a reason we are actually using certain tools and also introducing those tools to our friends and family. We do recommend them as well, right? When you're why we have lots of friends on Facebook, right? And we are finding our group of friends on different tools because we are happy, and now we have to we want to invite our friends, word of mouth. How did the Gmail took the uh, throne from Hotmail? We know, right? Yahoo Mail. Where's the Yahoo Mail? Only those who have old mail everywhere, they're still using it. But Gmail is everywhere. Why? Google Suite is everywhere. We know at that time that Microsoft Word was everywhere, right, on desktop, but they lost the battle. And that battle was based on experience, and that's it. And that experience came from the thought pattern they had behind that product, which was a design thing, the user experience, right? So UX, as Scott is saying, again, yeah, improves the business. So I hope I answer your question, Adil. And Samina Ismail, glad to hear from you. How much of coding is required to know for a UX UI designer? I see so many jobs opportunities for designer asking. Okay, I would say be familiar, right? There are two different camps. One is insisting that designer should be aware of coding, like 100%. We don't want unicorns. I'll tell you why. And one of the codes say, oh, we really don't want to learn the coding. What do I say? Come in between. Spend some time with your developer friend and learn about their pain point. Empathize. Again, empathy should be your first and foremost tool, right? Or a weapon or whatever, right? It should be your sword or whatever, however you want to put it, that comforts you. Empathize with your developer because, at the end of the day, who gonna get your work done? Developers. If you don't have developers in your team and you are unable to empathize with them, I'm sorry, you're not gonna able to get anything done, because then you will be running around. You're not gonna able to get your work done. You're gonna end up with the spaghetti code. That's it. I hope I answer your question, Samina. So, Naeem, actually, in how much time a person can be a good developer who has no software IT background? Okay, let me share you one story. I used to used to read tons of books, not tons, but when I used to commute, right? Uh, However, I start being lazy and lazy and lazy, and my reading graph goes all the way to the bottom, right? So maybe 2 books or 1 book a year. Recently, I discovered one thing. One of my friend, I don't know the name, Chris, yeah, on the LinkedIn, Chris, yeah, I guess, or Chris Net. So he suggested a very superb idea. That is, read 10 pages every day. That's it. 10, and don't skip it, even it's the weekend. For 365 days, you're gonna run 3,000. You're gonna read 3,650 days, right? Which means average book, they have 200 pages, right? So he says 18 books. You will be done by 18 books. 18 books in a year. Can you imagine that? 18 books. Crazy, right? I'm a pessimistic guy sometimes when it comes to reading because too much work to do. So so I gonna myself say, okay, 15 is my target. Like, 10 to 15, that's fine, right? So but my point is, every day spend at least 1 hour, minimum 1 hour on learning coding, right? So imagine that 1 hour every day. So you spend 365 hours. Or if you would have more time, then spend 2 hours, right? And see, or maybe you can mix and match, 1 hour weekday, 2 hour on weekend. And I'm dead sure you will be able to gain more insight because you're constantly working on it. So there's no time I can say, oh, it's gonna take 10 years to be an expert IT person or a developer or expert this or expert that. It depends on how much you are as a sponge, how much you soak in, and how much time you're spending, right? I hope I answered your question, Naeem. So let's go back to that. So my godfather told me, like, teach the Urdu, which I did but I was thinking, how should I do it? I did research on, like, uh, those cultures. I found out, like, let me start as a, again, I was a nerd, right? So I thought, oh, let me build an app. So I started company with my friend and we started building the Urdu apps, which was awesome because I did experiment on my kids, and with their friends, on their friends as well. They're all like 2 years old, 3 years old, and they start loving the application, what have you. And we got like 5,000 download. I was like, oh my god, wow, within, like, 3 weeks or 4 weeks of, maybe not 4 weeks, 3 to 4 months, and 5,000 download. We were not expecting it, right? Then my godfather came to me and said, hey, I want to write the Urdu language. I am writing it, but the problem is I'm using the Arabic keyboard and I'm not happy with this. So that's the time, that's the origin of my Urdu writer app, right? On iPhone 3GS at that time, or 2000, what was that? 2007 was launch iPhone, 2008 or 9, right? I guess at that time, or 10. I think it was 2008, 2007, 2000, 2009. Yeah, 2009, right? So we built the app actually, after, like, debating with him a lot, like why he cannot do this, that, again, So I built this kind of habit from my job as a developer, that before writing a single line of code, we always, discussion going on among my team. So this actually also helped me to bring that kind of thought pattern into the design world as well, which is like, why I'm building it? Why I have to code it? I can code this thing super easy, yeah, but why? Do I need to, or do I need to spend like 15 lines or 20 lines or 200 lines on it? Or there's any simple SDK available? I was a lazy programmer. I'm still a lazy designer, right? So I do try to find efficient way, I would say, not shortcuts, but efficient way to get the stuff done. That's why I like Sketch. You can, create the symbols and reuse it across multiple, projects now. And now there's a design system manager, something on Envision. I don't know, it's only available for enterprise. So I'm gonna stop my story here.
We got one more question.
Oh, there's one. Awesome. So privately, okay, thanks for okay. What kind of puzzle? What kind of research method do you use when starting it? So personally, I start interviewing. All right. So how do I do it? For car entry application, I will give you the example. I went to Reddit, right, and I start exploring more that who is using that certain application, and you will start getting the data, right? So I start bugging them, like, do you like the software? What's the most annoying part of the software? And then I do try to find out people from my friend circle, like, who is dealing with the car thingy. Who do you go to car auction? Do you do this? Do that? So I start, bugging. So it's kind of like a typical interview, a very, I would say, guerrilla type of, user testing I was doing. And if you want to learn more about it, Rocket Surgery Made Easy, by Steve Kirk, Rocket. So this is a very interesting book about, like, adopting quick and dirty way of doing the user. So there are so many. So first, this is the one I did, poking around. And another book, The Mom Test, like, that actually put a stamp on the way of I usually asking the question. So because this is what the Rob said in the book, don't put the word in their mouth. Learn about the experience, understand what they're going, what's their pain point from their angle. Don't try to impose your solution, right? So don't show it to them until you understand. So these kind of questions you have to ask when you find the people. So user research, again, interviewing, usability testing. If your product is solidify and there are like 5 or 10 users who already committed, or customers say, hey, we're gonna buy, and they already paid you as well. So you go ahead and do the usability research with them. Diary study, again, shadowing with them, ethnographic, studies as well. So there are so many, but depend on what stage you are of your product development. I hope I answered your question, Fazal. Cool. Sure. So yeah, let's stop my story here. That's a part where we were about to just build a prototype of our Urdu writer, and that was amazing. So again, all the things I was doing at that time, self-study, and one more thing I did. I had my mentor, and I listened to my mentor a lot. I respected her privacy, not bugging her a lot. But when she interviewed me and she found out that I'm a developer, I'm coming from the developer end. So she asked me at that time in 2008, focus on responsive web design and interaction design should be my focus. So I build my specialty there. I'm still not good in visual design. I suck. All right. But I focus on the interaction design part, product design, the whole product design methodology, and that was my specialty. That's how I built my specialty, right? I do know about typography, but I'm not good at it. Don't believe me if I say something about the font or color. I am not good at it. But if you want to get the product, hardest problem about your product can solve, I'm the person. So yeah, that's me. Thank you, Arzish, and thank you whoever is asking these questions. I don't like to talk about.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for the amazing story as well. We'll continue asking questions about the story in the sessions
Yeah.
that follow as well.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. I guess this is goodbye. See you next week. Bye.
Sure, man. Thank you. Bye.